We are using the smaller of the two books that you have behind your seat or in front of your seat, depending on where you're sitting. It's our prayer book, our Siddur, and we're going to begin, when we begin, on page 10 with a medley.
Yep. Should we start? No? Wait for Anne to come. Is that the end? Yeah, she's coming. Here she is.
Shabbat Shalom. It's wonderful to celebrate not just Shabbat, but obviously just this day in general. It's a beautiful summer day. And the bat mitzvah of Julia Zimmerman, who we're so proud to be able to celebrate throughout this holy day. It, of course, is the weekend of Juneteenth, when we especially remember the importance of freedom, and we also turn our hearts to praise and togetherness as one community this Pride Month.
That's right. הנה מה טוב המנעים שבת אחים גם יחד הנה מה טוב המנעים שבת אחים גם יחד הנה מה טוב הנה מה טוב יא לה 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 הנה מה טוב הנה מה טוב יא לה 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 הנה מה טוב המנעים שבת אחים גם יחד הנה מה טוב המנעים שבת אחים גם יחד מה טוב הוא אוכל לך יעקב משכנתך ישראל מה טוב הוא אוכל לך יעקב משכנתך ישראל כן מה טוב ומנעים שבת אחים גם יחד כן מה טוב ומנעים שבת אחים גם יחד הנה מה טוב הנה מה טוב יא לה 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 הנה מה טוב הנה מה טוב יא לה 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 בים בם בים בים בם בים 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 בם בים בם בים בים בם bim 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 bam kinay matov mandaim shabbat achim gam yachad kinay matov mandaim shabbat achim gam yachad.
We continue welcoming Shabbat on pages 3 and 2 with the lighting of Shabbat candles. It's my great pleasure to call forward the Zimmerman family, who are celebrating Julia becoming a bat mitzvah this weekend, this Shabbat. I'd love to call them forward to lead us in the candle blessings. It's our custom, if you're able, to please rise.
O source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness, help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and our lives. Bless all who enter the sanctuary in need, all who bring their offerings of their hearts. May our worship lead us to acts of kindness, peace, and love. Asher shanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'hadlik ner shel Shabbat.
It's my pleasure to call forward Julia to lead us in Kiddush, but you can actually use the whole podium. so that you can spill lots of grape juice all over my siddur if you'd like. I deserve it. She's been through so much with me. All right. we are on page 4.
ויהי ערב ויהי בוקר יום השישי, ויחולך השמים והארץ, וכל צבאם, ויחל אלוקים ביום השביעי, מלאכתו אשר עשה, וישבות ביום השביעי, מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה, ויברך אלוקים את יום השביעי, ויקדש אותו, כי בשבת מכל מלאכתו, כי בשבת מכל מלאכתו, אשר ברא אלוקים, אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות.
The heaven and the earth were finished in all their array. On the seventh day, God finished the work that God had been doing, and ceased on the seventh day from all the work that God had done. And God blessed the seventh day and declared it holy, because on it God ceased from all the work of creation that God had done. Baruch atah Adonai,
Baruch Shemo,
Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagofel.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai,
Baruch Shemo,
Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu b'shabbat kodsho b'ha'ava uvratzon inchilanu zikaro l'maaseh b'reishit ki hu yom tevilah lemikra'ei kodesh zecher yetziat mitzrayim kibanu b'charta yotanu kidashta mikol ha'amim Shabbat kashecha b'ha'avrazon hilotanu Baruch atah Adonai
Baruch Shemo,
Mekadesh HaShabbat. Chaim. Oh, okay.
Okay, no, you're not going anywhere.
Oh.
You may be seated, but it's my pleasure to call forward Barry Tinkelman, a member of our Board of Trustees, our Vice President of Religious Practices, to offer some gifts and some greetings to you on this very special day. You don't have to step away, but you can. Barry Tinkelman.
Thank you, Rabbi. Mazel tov, Julia. Tonight marks the beginning of a new era for you as you become a bat mitzvah. Tomorrow morning, in one of your first responsibilities as a young Jewish adult, you'll both read and you'll teach some Torah. Your parsha begins with the instruction to Aaron about lighting the menorah, the 7-branched candelabra that has become the symbol of our people. In the book of Proverbs, King Solomon tells us that God's lamp is the human soul. In the 16th century, Isaac Luria taught that the 6 branches of the menorah represent scientific and academic disciplines, where the center flame represents the light of Torah, shedding light on each other and together illuminating our world. The commentators explain that the 6 outer branches represent the 6 fields of knowledge: medicine, physics, mathematics, art, psychology, and sociology. These are all essential fields of scholarship. Were it not for human excellence in these areas, we would not have heart transplants, ballet, air transportation, or even the internet. Yet the Torah is telling us that society cannot rest on knowledge alone. Unless this information is focused and directed toward the center stem, symbolizing God, Torah, and spirituality, then this wisdom is for naught. Tonight, the sisterhood and brotherhood of the congregation are happy to present you with a pair of Shabbat candlesticks to light your way on your special path. May the light of your faith always guide you wherever you go and whatever you do. We also have a certificate of membership in Old York Road Temple-Beth on BAFTI, the Federation of Temple Youth, and a gift certificate that you can use on a trip to Israel in a couple of years. Mazel tov. Good luck tomorrow. You're doing great. Thank you. Mazel tov.
Mazel tov. You are welcome now to be seated. Julia, there'll be more, but it'll be tomorrow. Yeah, you did great. We're going to continue our service on page 20 with Lecha Dodi.
לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. 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 שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד, כי שמיענו אליך מיוחד. אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם ולתפארת ולתחילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי היא מקור הברכה. בראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. יתעוררי, כי יברך קומי אורי אשר דברי, כבוד אדוני אלייך נגלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. בואי בשלום עטרת בלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
You may be seated as we turn to page 24 for Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Kasharit, Malachei Alyon. Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bachem l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Alyon. הקדוש ברוך הוא. ברכוני לשלום, מלאכי השלום, מלאכי העליון. מלך מלאכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. צאתכם לשלום, מלאכי השלום, מלאכי העליון. ממלך מלאכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. יתגדל ויתקדש שם רבה. בעלמא תברכרותי וימליך מלכותי, ויכון מכונכי כל בית ישראל. בגלו, בגלו, ובזמן קריב, ויאמרו אמן. יחי שמי רבא מברך, לעולם ולעולמי עלמיה. יתברך, יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי קדושו בריחו. לקהל מן כל ברכתו ושירתו, תושבחתו ונחמתו, דמירון בעלמא, ויאמרו אמן. ברכו את אדוני המברך, ברוך אדוני המברך לעולם ועד.
We join together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chokhmah poteach she'arim, uvitvuna mishanei itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umesader et hakochavim, b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono. Borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or, uma'avir yom umevi layla, umavdil ben yom uvein layla, Adonai tzvaot shemo, El chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch aleinu leolam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim. As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai echad. Baruch Shem kevod malchuto le'olam va'ed. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, וחיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבדיך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, וחיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together.
מי כמוך פעילים אדוני, מי כמוך נגדר בקודש, נור תהילות אוסף אלי, נור תהילות אוסף אלי, מלכותך רוב עדיך, בוקר לפני משה ומרים, זכרני, ענו ואמרו, אדוני מלך לעולם ועד. ונאמר כיפת אדוני את יעקב, וגלום יחזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
Please join with me on page 43. Give us a place to rest, Adonai our God. Bring us into shelter in the soft, long evening shadows of your truth. For with you are true protection and safety, and in your presence are acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai, hapores sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim.
ושומרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם, ביני ובין בני ישראל ותהיו היום, ביני ובין בני ישראל ותהיו היום, כששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפל וביום השביעי, וביום השביעי, שבת ויהי נפש.
Page 46, we rise for the Amidah.
אדוני שפתי תפתח ואפי אגיד תהילתך ברוך אתה אדוני אלוקינו ואלוקי אבותינו ואמותינו אלוקי אברהם אלוקי יצחק ואלוקי יעקב אלוקי ישראל אלוקי רבקה אלוקי רחל ואלוקי לאה אלך הגדול כגיבור וכנורא אל אליקון גומל חסדים טובים וקונאי הכל וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות ומביא גאולה לבני בניכם למען שמו בכפר מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני בחייך כולתו רב להושיע מוריד חטאי בחלקי לחיים בחסד בחייך כל ברחמים רבים שמח נפלי ברופא חולים ומתיר אסורים ומקיים אמונתו ישן יחפר יחמוך כל גיבורות ומידוע מלוך מלך מימין ומחיה ומצמיח ישר ונאמן אתה לך חיות הכל ברוך אתה אדוני בחגי הכל אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש וקדושים בכל יום יחללו חסדך ברוך אתה אדוני האל
We continue silently from page 54 through page 63, or with the prayer written within your own heart. And then when your private prayer is complete, we invite you to be seated and we'll join back together in a few moments in song.
ויאמרו אמן. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל.
We turn from a prayer for peace, for wholeness and shalom for the whole world, to prayers for wholeness within each of us, in our bodies, our minds, our spirits, and those of our friends and neighbors, those closest to us and those further out in the rippling circles of connection we have across this planet. We ask for healing tonight for Barry Abrams, Cynthia Baylor, Michael Block, Nathan Daniel Boyd, Sandy Chernow, Andy Dorfman, Marilyn Eisner, Sheila Evans, Benjamin Ben Kochav of Ephraim, Merrill Fulmer, Lou Geddes, Stuart Geddes, Brian Geiger, Paul Isikoff, Sherry Kravitz, Bernie Crick, Rizel Shirabat, Esther Mulkachai, David Lieberman, Spencer Leibowitz, Rosanna Moses, Rishona Myers, Gershona Binyamina Batsora Valevi, Harvey Ostroff, Joan Ostroff, Herman Pallett, Vagieb Partielli, Sharon Paul, Kelly Quagliati, Rebitzer David Rachmiel Ben Sara Valevi, Yehudit Bracha V'Yechida Ruchel Baruch Reuven, Steve Rajewski, Helene Rajewski, Samuel Schloss, Linda Skussel, Kirsten Spiegel, Samara Sternberg, Molly Tinkelman, Beverly Tisdale, Ira Tischk, Jack Gvelkoff, Judy Weiss, Richard Wright Sr., Barbara Zipperman, Cecile Zlotnick. And I invite you to add any names to this list, names of anyone for whom you're praying for healing tonight. Ellen, please. With hope for healing in our hearts, we join together in the singing of Mishaberach, page 253.
Source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Bless renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
May the Holy One of Blessing send us wholeness, healing, and peace, soon and in our day, as together we say, Amen. So as I mentioned at the beginning of our service, we have lots of reasons to celebrate. And one of them is that we're still in the midst of Pride Month. At the beginning of June, we had a wonderful Pride celebration in our service under the stars out in the back. And I have to say a highlight for me was the rainbow jello that was part of the oneg. It's very creative. It was a wonderful event, but we continue to celebrate throughout the month. And so I'm really pleased and excited to introduce to you a speaker tonight who comes to us from Israel. And I'll read you a little bit about his biography, but he has a really interesting area of study, which he's going to share a little insight about with us tonight. Elazar Ben Lulu is an anthropologist of religion and gender with a particular interest in the intersection of LGBTQ identities in Judaism. He's a member of the Azrieli Center for Israel Studies at the Ben-Gurion Research Institute for the Study of Israel and Zionism, Ben-Gurion University of the Negev. During his time so one of the things that he has focused on in his studies, are you still in the midst of it, the Jewish life cycle? Yeah, okay. So he's currently studying Jewish life cycle rituals in American and Israeli LGBT families in Reform congregations. So you've arrived at the right place. I'm very excited to learn with Dr. Ben Lulu. He previously wrote his dissertation on the title Gender, Prayer, and Recognition in Israeli Reform Congregations. It's my great pleasure to call Dr. Ben Lulu forward to share some Torah and some wisdom from his studies.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm very excited. Parashat Shlach focuses on one of the most tragic accounts in the entire Torah, certainly in the history of the people of Israel, the time in the desert. It seems to start of safety. God instructs Moses to appoint 12 men, one from each of the 12 tribes, and to travel to the land of Israel to scout out the land. After Moses appoints the men, the Torah records for us several questions that Moses poses to them. Is the land good or bad? Is it fertile or not? Who are the inhabitants of the land? Are they numerous or few? Are they strong or weak? The spies travel around and return after 40 days and a report of what they saw. They said that the land was flowing with milk and honey, Eretz Zavat Chalav Udvash, but described that its inhabitants are powerful giants. Following this, the people of Israel were attacked with panic and fear and wanted to return to Egypt. The punishment on this response was 40 years of wandering in the wilderness. Only a small group, the illegal immigrants, Hama'apilim, tried to advance and independently insisted to enter the land of Israel. The spies report, but these immigrants lost their lives in the war against the Amalek, the enemy. As an anthropologist who examined throughout the last decades the social positionality of the reform movement in Israel, the issue of safe space has always discussed. Is the land of Israel a safe space for Reform Jewish people? What's the relationship between the Israeli Reform communities and the different sectors and publics? How does the Reform community work to position itself as an egalitarian alternative? Unfortunately, the Promised Land is a site of internal Jewish conflicts and arguments. In my ethnographic research, based on a fieldwork in Reform congregations, I talked with rabbis and congregants who discussed on their own experiences and perspective. I tried to explore how they deal with their otherness, how they respond to Orthodox excluded voices or to any other common reminders that make them feel unwelcome, strangers in the Israeli public sphere. I found that this shameful situation promotes the Reform local communities to take this social obstacle one step forward and to transform this positionality by constructing a political solution and to demonstrate a pluralistic strategy by creating intersections with other marginal groups in the Israeli society, such as the LGBTQ+ community. By conducting observations and interviews with Reform queer congregants, I conclude how the prayer, the sermons, the ritual itself is more than a moment which connects them to God or to the Jewish history, is more than a liberal theological way to express liberal spirituality, but this religious performance is de facto a political act. It connects them to their gender, to their sexuality, to their sexual identity, to their body. Since I was a child who grew up in a Sephardic family in a small village in the north of Israel, I always ask myself how my gay identity can be part of my Jewishness. I remember the first time that I was exposed to the Reform community when I studied at Liobek High School in Haifa. It was my first time that I met a female rabbi, and I know that one Shabbat service once a year is dedicated to me, to my community, to my other gay folks. It was such an exciting moment for me, even though I handled with some liturgical dilemma during the practice, because I knew only one way to observe and practice Jewish ritual, based on the Sephardic Masorti approach. Today, almost 20 years later, I continue to discover this trajectory in diverse academic platforms and also in my job as a journalist in the Israeli public radio station Galei Tzahal. My deep connection and curiosity to the Reform community in Israel and also here in the state is demonstrated by my studies and publications. But more than that, it's something that really shaped my way of life as an Israeli, as a Jewish man, as a gay. This month, we celebrate pride, freedom, and love. Unfortunately, in Israel, these values are often repressed because of political and religious reasons. And as a result, LGBTQ+ people, as well as Israeli Reform congregants, continue to fight for inclusion and social recognition. Following our parasha, I'm curious, is the Promised Land here in the state or in the state of Israel? What is the responsibility of the Israeli society and the government to change the inclusion of non-Orthodox communities? And maybe one more queer thought. Metaphorically, what about those people whose own home, which can also symbolize their body, does not fit or align with their gender perceptions or heteronormative norms? Do we believe their personal perception like the report of the spies in the parasha? Are we really sensitive to and aware of their experiences? Do we allow them as a community to consider themselves as part of Klal Israel and promote them to reveal their secrets and truth? Who or what are our personal internal spies who convince us to follow heterosexual rules and make sure that we are not ma'apilim, the immigrants in the parasha? And maybe we can find some some of the answers for these questions in the site, וכי יגור איתכם גר אשר בתוככם לדורותיכם. And then a stranger shall dwell with you, and that dwell among you throughout your generation. תודה רבה. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for sharing some of your work with us, and I appreciate especially the insight of how the Reformed community in Israel is utilizing their experience of marginalization, which is not something that Reformed Jews in the United States have. You know, it's a different experience. So those of you who may not be as familiar with Israeli culture, Reformed Jews, while we are amongst Jews in the United States, we are the majority. We are very much not the majority in Israel, and really don't have a lot of political power, and there's a lot of difficulty in living a fully Reformed Jewish life. And so that marginalization turns the hearts, it sounds like, of participants in the Reformed community towards other marginalized groups and what that experience might be like. And of course, this is part of our tradition that we were strangers in the land of Egypt, and therefore we know the plight of the stranger, and so it's our obligation to not just enter the mindset of the stranger and know their experience, but to fight for justice. Thank you, Doctor. We're going to continue our service on page 282 with Aleinu, and I'd love to call Julia. Can you and your brother help us open the ark? Come on, Sam. We rise on page 282. Our thoughts now turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. Here in the Beth Am community, we are once again grateful this week that we do not have a list of those whose families are in the Shloshim period. We do not have a list of those who've been recently deceased. However, our yahrzeit list calls to mind so many memories. Herman Bank, Edward Belaski, Ida Botwinick, Evelyn Brodsky, Lillian Chekhov, Lily Cohen, Mary Cohen, Rose Cohen, Esther Cohen, Harry Cohn, Florence Cook, Richard Corin, Benjamin Dortch, Florence Elgart, Albert Fishman, Ida Glascombe, Ruth Gold, Rhoda Goldstein, Nathan Gordon, William Green, Elsie Greenberg, Herbert L. Gross, Irene Harrison, Stephen S. Kaplan, Leonard Klein, Mark Clinchin, Louis Klinman, Lillian I. Kovnat, Samuel Kurtzman, Leah Landis, Lily Lieb, Nancy Beth Leisowitz, Nina Levin, Benjamin Lichtenstein, Andrea Lipschutz, Ian Lurie, Samuel Meltz, Morris Meltzer, David Molish, Kaylin Quinn Munger, Ida Nowich, Lillian Pressman, Sarah Isabel Rice, William Roth, Leah Samansky, Jacob Scheingold, Eugene Matthias Schloss, George Schochet, Miriam Sellinger, Heidi Schierman, Martha Lazowick Sherman, Sidney Sherwin, Philip Shine, Eileen Silikovitz, Frank Smith, May Solomon, Gertrude Strakowski, Betty Sutow, Joseph Stroh, Edna Mazer Tarnoff, Maxine Wolfowitz. I invite you to add any names to this list, the names of anyone for whom you're saying Kaddish tonight. Zichronam livracha, may their memories be an abiding blessing. As one congregation, we rise and join together in the words of Kaddish, page 294. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah, v'alma divrach yiroteh v'yamlich malchuteh, v'chayachon uv'yomechon, uv'chayeh d'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'izman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mivarach le'olam ula'almei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shemed kudasha b'richu, la'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the one who makes peace in the highest heavens bring peace to us, to all Israel, to all the world, and comfort to all who are bereaved, as together we say, amen. I invite you to be seated. It's my pleasure to call forward the president of our congregation, Joshua Posnan, to share some greetings and announcements.
Good evening, everyone. Mazel tov, Julia, and mazel tov to the entire Zimmerman family on your becoming bat mitzvah. So here's what's going on at Beth Am. Tov study tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., followed by the peer-led service at 10. Rabbi Lieb's Pirkei Avot class is going on this Sunday at 11. The Zoom information should have been in today's email. Sisterhood Mahjong continues on Wednesday nights, and there's also a new beginner class starting in July. So if you'd like to learn how to play, make sure you sign up in advance. Don't wait to register your kids for Mensch Lab and Beit Noir. Registration will be closing soon, but we'll make room for you. Do you own a business? Beth Am is publishing its own member-to-member business directory. Let's make sure we support our own Beth Am family. Information is in the emails that you'll be getting every week, and you can also sign up to do that on Shul Cloud. Next Saturday morning, join Rabbi Lieb. It's June 25th. It'll be 10:30 a.m. for a meaningful, spiritual, and ambulatory celebration of Shabbat for a nature walk on the Pennypack Trail. You can RSVP to Jackie Lehner in the office. Rabbi Tornberg next year is leading a family exploration trip, say that 5 times fast, of Israel at the end of 23 into 24. And planning started to begin for that trip. If you and your family are interested, make sure to get in touch with her. Hyas is in need of new 20-inch box fans to distribute to refugees. There's a link to the Target registry in this Tuesday's email, and the fans will be shipped directly to the Hyas offices. Anytime you come to the building, make sure to bring a non-perishable food item. We're supporting the Jenkintown Food Cupboard, and bins are at the back door. And that's all the news. So, Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Josh. We're going to conclude our service momentarily with a song that the cantor is going to surprise me with. And when we're finished, we invite you to please join us in the lobby for motzi and a chance to greet one another. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. So the song in honor of our guest is going to be Yom Ze Israel. And on page 330, please join us in Bon Yeshur's famous melody for Yom Ze Israel, 330.
יום זה לישראל הרע ושמחה, שבת, שבת, שבת מנוחה. יום זה לישראל הרע ושמחה, שבת, שבת, שבת מנוחה. ציווית פקודים במעמד הר סיני, שבת ומועדים לשמור בכל שנה. ברוך לפניי מסד ברוכו, שבת, שבת מנוחה. יום זה לישראל הרע ושמחה, שבת, שבת, שבת מנוחה. יום זה לישראל הרע ושמחה, שבת, שבת, שבת מנוחה. קידשת בראת אותו מכל ימים, בששת טלית ומלאכת עולמים, פה מצאו הגויים חשקי דובתך. שבת, שבת מנוחה. יום זה לישראל הרע ושמחה, שבת, שבת, שבת מנוחה. יום זה לישראל הרע ושמחה, שבת, שבת, שבת מנוחה. יום זה לישראל הרע ושמחה, שבת, שבת, שבת מנוחה. יום זה לישראל הרע ושמחה, שבת, שבת, שבת מנוחה.
Mazel Tov Zimmermans and Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Are we going? Yeah. Is David okay? Is David here?